Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Catalytic converter theft had kind of fallen off the radar, or at least so I thought. And then a bunch of people sent me this story. It's been widely reported. District cancels classes on fifth day of school after buses had their catalytic converters stolen. Somebody stole the catalytic converters off all the buses, rendering them, in essence, unusable for the time being. WNDU ran the story, as Emily Vanderreet wrote it, out of Michigan City, Indiana. Yes, there is a Michigan City in Indiana. Although I'm sure if you ask them, they'll say it's named after the lake, not the state. A school district in Indiana had to close its schools Tuesday after someone stole the catalytic converters from many of its buses. According to a Facebook post from Michigan City area schools, transportation staff discovered early Tuesday morning the buses had been vandalized. The district said it was forced to switch from in-person learning to online learning due to the thefts. According to WNDU, about 20 buses were vandalized. The district said it's working closely with Michigan City Police Department as they investigate the incident. We know this sudden change is disruptive. We appreciate your patience and support as we work through this unexpected situation. The school system said it would keep families updated on how the rest of the week might be affected. The thefts happened during the district's fifth day of school. According to an online calendar, students started school on August 13th. Michigan City is located in northernmost Indiana on the coast of Lake Michigan. So that's the entire story. And, the weird thing is, I was doing stories about catalytic converter thefts years ago, and it became a very hot thing. And then they started cracking down on it. And different states and areas passed certain kinds of laws in an attempt to address it, saying, for instance, that if you are a recycler and somebody brings in a catalytic converter to sell, you're required to get like an ID and maybe a photograph or a thumbprint or something to where it could be tracked. But of course, then people go, okay, I can steal it here. I just have to sell it someplace else. And then you heard about big catalytic converter theft rings where people were stealing them over here and then middlemen were shipping them someplace else, and they're all being disposed of in some state far, far away, or tracking them would be almost impossible. Now, you might say, but Steve, that makes a lot of sense because thieves are smart people sometimes, and they might figure out ways to get around these laws, right? And I understand that entirely. But the point I'm trying to make here is how much money can someone make stealing a catalytic converter if they're not the ones bringing it in for the top dollar? They're selling it to somebody else who's selling to somebody else who's selling it for top dollar. And it starts to look like the margins would be awfully thin on something like this. Now, true, if someone stole 20 of them, volume, maybe it makes sense then. But the real thing that bothers me about catalytic converter theft, and there's a few other crimes like this, like the people who break into someplace and steal the copper wiring. They rip the copper wiring or the copper pipes out of a house or something, is that they do so much damage in the process. And let's suppose that somebody using a reciprocating saw cuts the catalytic converter off of a bus, okay? Well, you can't just take another catalytic converter and snap it into place. You got to have to fix those ends that got sawed off. So now you're looking at repairs and a catalytic converter. And you start looking at how much it costs society for each theft like that and how little the people are making who are doing it. And you really got to crack down on it. And so I've known somebody who owned a home that scrappers got into and ripped out all the pipes and all the wiring. And the house had been habitable before that, meaning it wasn't an abandoned house. It wasn't an abandoned house. It was simply unoccupied at the moment. And somebody did that. And it caused thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in damage. And an electrician had to come in and fix the wiring, and a plumber had to come in and fix the plumbing. And if you looked at how little money the scrappers made, and then how much it cost to repair all the damages, it is a very large loss economically. And I often talk about how you have to look at some things like that. when you're talking about passing a law to outlaw something or an attempt to crack down on something. And so when they catch somebody who's dealing in stolen catalytic converters, it's not just, oh, this person's got possession of stolen property. It's like any other stolen property case. Not necessarily, because the stolen catalytic converters are almost always accompanied by damage to a vehicle that's expensive to repair. Okay? So what I'm saying is, for instance, let's suppose you go to a scrapyard and you got a pile of catalytic converters. If somebody broke into your scrapyard and stole those, well, yeah, they just stole a bunch of stuff. But if they break into a yard where buses are parked and hack them off of buses, they're damaging each of those buses. And so that's why they need to crack down specifically on catalytic converter theft. And here you have the added detriment of the buses are now inoperable, and they had something to do. They're supposed to be bringing kids to and from school, and they can't do that now. So I'm not sure how long it'll take them, because obviously, let's say it's 20 buses. They've got to go and find 20 catalytic converters, and then the pipes, and then get someone to do the work, and it's going to take a while. But one thing I will tell you, and I simply like to point this out, is that buses is a very strange word in the English language, because BUS is a bus, and plural of it is BUSES. And believe it or not, BUSSES is the plural, and it literally means kisses, plural, to kiss somebody. Believe it or not. I don't make this stuff up, okay? It's just the dictionary explaining to me how things are. And I can tell you that I know of one school district where there's a sign out in front of the school, and it says, buses this way, and they misspelled it. Now, I wonder if they knew it was misspelled, but thought, well, most people will think it's misspelled the other way because it looks like buses, B-U-S-E-S. But that is the correct way of spelling it, B-U-S-E-S. And it's an unusual plural to be spelled that way, okay? But that's just the way it is. But I also wonder if the people making the sign, did they look at it and go, this is misspelled? Or did they actually have one in stock that was misspelled? And how could no one at the school catch that? But that's another story altogether. As a child, I was very good at spelling, and I occasionally spot these kinds of things. So I had to point that out because the headline does, in fact, spell the word correctly. And I know a lot of people probably look at that and go, is that right? But I suspect that a lot of people go, oh, that's right. That's one of those really, really weird ways to make a plural out of a word. But yeah, 20 buses damaged approximately. So the buses can't go today, and they can't go for a little while till they're fixed. And I actually knew somebody else who, we were waiting for somebody, and they pull up in a car just making an ungodly racket. And I go, what happened? Someone stole my catalytic converter. So hopefully the cracking down on this will make it eventually go away, but it's bad. So Fox 10, WNDU, they both ran that. Michigan City, Indiana. District cancels classes on 5th day of school after buses had catalytic converters stolen. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Money can't buy happiness, but it sure makes misery easier to live with.